Well, it's a beautiful Friday afternoon at the end of April here in Athens, and we're in front of Park Hall on Baldwin Street. And why don't we make our way into the building and let's see what my office looks like. I hope you'll enjoy seeing my work environment, and where at least part of the time I'll be looking at your material and grading it, reading it with interest, and turning in a grade for you. We're in Park Hall. One last look here at the scenery before we go in. There's Sanford Stadium, there's the SLC, or the MLC as it's now called, and in we go. Usually I take the stairs. This time, in order not to bore you, we'll take the elevator. I would imagine many of you have spent some time in Park Hall, and this is all quite familiar to you. So up we go on the elevator. Down to my little corner on the academic universe. And here we are in my office. So let's see, well, what have we got here? We have a view of Toledo by El Greco. I have a view of my wife a few years ago, beautiful wife Susan. This is me in my alter ego as a blues harmonica player. And oh, this is kind of silly, taking you on this little tour here, but there's my old typewriter. I use that sometimes to type letters to people, just because it looks old-fashioned and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, so let's see. So standing here in the entryway to my office. This is the office. This is what it looks like. I should, for all you Bulldog fans, I should show you that I have a ringside seat almost on. Well, I can't watch the game from here, but I can watch thousands of people watching the Bulldogs play in Sanford Stadium, and not that I can ever get here on a game day. The traffic is impossible, so I tend to stay home on game days. Okay, so this is what an English professor's books look like in his office. I have this many books at home too, some of which I've actually read, and many of which I've read many times. Okay, well, so I'm not going to bore you with all the subject matter of these books, but I will tell you this. I will show you that this is the Beowulf shelf over here, where I have lots of editions, translations, commentaries, and reference works about Beowulf. And oh yeah, there's my double computer. And I should show you that these are the books that we'll be reading in the class, so you'll recognize them. Well, this is sort of in reverse order. Well, not quite. John Milton's Paradise Lost. We'll be reading a portion of that. Sections from King Arthur and His Knights by Sir Thomas Malory. In this book, The Anglo-Saxon World, we'll be reading some Old English poetry and prose and Beowulf. And then probably the most interesting, maybe to some of you, will be Shakespeare's Henry IV Part 1, which is a very interesting play I hope you'll enjoy. Okay, so that's the books. Now what else? What else can I show you? Oh well, I am a graduate of Indiana University, and so I have a little decal on my, can you see it? Yeah, there you go. And so that's my office. I hope it was as thrilling to you as it was to me. One last look at Sanford Stadium and the University of Georgia Bulldogs playing field between the hedges. And yes, and then the SLC once again, where I'm sure many of you spend many hours, and probably some hours studying actually. All right, well, that's my office. Okay, so here's me, and what do I want to say to you? Well, welcome to the course. This is English literature from the beginnings to 1700, and we'll be hitting the high spots. This is a course, if you read the course catalog on Oasis, you can see that there are many authors that are sometimes used in this course. I have elected to keep it simple, and with the exception of the first week's lesson, where we'll be reading a number of different poems of different sorts in the Old English, well, in translations from the Old English language. For the rest of the time, we'll be concentrating on major works. So after reading a few scattered Old English poems, then we go into Beowulf. Then from the Middle English period, we'll read Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, one of the interesting medieval romances from the time of Chaucer approximately. We're not reading any Chaucer in this course, although many times this course does include Chaucer. There's no time this time. This is a fairly compressed course this summer. So we're going to leave Geoffrey Chaucer to himself this time. Then in the Renaissance, we'll be reading Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1. Oh, and I should have said, at the very end of the Middle Ages, we'll be reading the first important prose work in the English language, the first really big piece of literary prose, Sir Thomas Malory's Morte d'Arthur, the story of King Arthur and his knights, and the quest for the Holy Grail, and a number of other things. Then there's Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 1, which is his history play, which, while it was written in the Renaissance, it gives a Renaissance view of what English people sort of thought or imagined or believed might be true about their medieval ancestors. And so the play is set actually in the time of Chaucer, in the time of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, at the end of the 1300s. And then finally we'll read a portion, really only 5 out of the 12 books of Paradise Lost by John Milton, which gives an account of the fall of the angels in biblical terms, and the fall of mankind in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, and the apple and the serpent and all that stuff. And then lastly, a hint of things to come later on in sacred history. And that rounds out the Renaissance for us, and that brings the course to a conclusion. I'll say that while there is a fair amount of reading in the course, it's spread out over a period of 7 weeks, and so actually the number of pages that you'll have to read per week will be less than 100, and the only real writing you'll have to do will be fairly straightforward. There will be a handful of shortish quizzes for each week, and then in almost all of the weeks there will be a 500 to 700 word essay required. And as soon as you've finished writing the essay, you can then move on to the next lesson. There will be a midterm essay, and in that week you'll have no extra reading, which will be good for you. At the end of the course, there's a final exam that will have at least an essay, and I'm thinking it may have a few shorter answers as well. This course is set up and scheduled so that if you really want to, you can double up your efforts and actually do more than 1 week's worth of lessons in 1 week. So that if you really want to try to get this course done and out of the way before the end of the through session, the end of summer sessions, you can work quickly and do all the work and submit it and be done. Though I think the course grades won't be recorded until the final week after finals. So you'll have to wait on your grade for that. But I can tell you in advance what you're going to expect to be on your transcript. So that's it. I want to welcome you to the course. This is material that not everybody considers their favorite. A lot of people think of English literature as sort of beginning with the English Romantics, Wordsworth, Byron, Keats, and those people, and then moving on through into the 19th century with the novelists, and then the 20th century and all that's going on there, and postmodernism after the 20th century. This is earlier stuff, but it's foundational, and I think that anybody who really wants to claim to know anything about English literature has to know something about the Anglo-Saxon period, has to know something about the later Middle Ages and the Renaissance. So you're in the course, and so this is already a good start. See you at the first lesson.